From Mamamia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I am hijacking the feed today. My name's Taylor Strano. I am the host of Mamamia's The Quickie News Podcast, and I'm joined by the always incredible Ksenia Lukic. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us on The Spill today. So exciting to talk to you about. What a fun one today.
What a fun one indeed. So the reason that I have busted my way in again this week on The Spill is I am still very much living in this post-watch party world. Now, Ksenia, when I say watch party, you know what that means. I'm talking about The Spill's brand new expansion podcast. I'm sure you've already listened and you've rated 5 stars.
I have already listened and already texted everyone being like... from the thoughts. So it's definitely worth a listen if you haven't listened to it yet.
Thank you. Do as Ksenia says, go and listen to Watch Party after this. But what we did over there is actually dive deep into a brand new film called The Thursday Murder Club. The reason that I'm bringing that up today on The Spill is because we are all about book to screen adaptations. It's something that I've been thinking about nonstop since we filmed and recorded Watch Party and put it out into the world. And Ksenia, I don't know about you, but it turns out there are so many of my favourite films and TV shows that actually originally started as books.
I mean, it doesn't surprise me because that's, the best writers and that's where you get so much great source material from. And so today we're going to go through our absolute favourite book adaptations. Now, we are going to have a couple of guidelines.
Okay, I love a rule. I mean, I feel like we're on weekend watch again. I'm prepared to not do an Emily Burnham and break them all. So tell me, what are the rules?
Okay, so the rule is it has to be loved by the fans. So it's got to really take the core of the book and be true to it. Even if there are some changes, it needs to be adored. I'm kind of thinking Harry Potter does not do that because there was just way too many plot changes and that just really irritated me.
I think you're right. The fandom for the Harry Potter books is very different to the fandom for the Harry Potter films.
Absolutely. So that's kind of my main one is I just want it to be true to the book. So these are books that we have both read and series or movies that we've both seen. So we just want it to be really true.
Yeah, I think that's really good groundwork to lay down for what we're about to get into on The Spill. And of course, it wouldn't be fun if we weren't doing a little bit of wish fulfillment as well. So we'll have a few of our favourite books that we'd like to see end up on the big screen too. So without further ado, Ksenia, do you want to kick us off? What is your first in this list of book to screen adaptations?
Okay, so I'm going to start with a kind of obvious one, but there's a very good reason for it. And that is Big Little Lies.
Love.
Now, Big Little Lies was written by Australian Leanne Moriarty, who is one of my all-time favourite authors. I think I've read her entire catalogue. Now, in 2014 is when she wrote the book. So this is basically the 6th book that she wrote. And Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon got advanced copies of it. Both of them absolutely loved it and were like, this is made to be a limited series. And something you may not know is it aired on HBO in 2017, but something you may not know is it's kind of the show that kickstarted Hollywood's love of the limited series again.
I think you're right. I've got some feelings about limited series and we will get to those in a moment, but you're right. I think this was one of those real TV cinema-ish moments that came back around in 2017 and really kicked those off again. Succession is another one that I think of in that same category as well.
Yeah, and so the book, if you haven't read the book, shame on you, hand slap, go and read it. I would say the series is very, very true to the book. The biggest shift is that Leanne actually set this book in the Northern Beaches, which is actually...
not far from where you are right now.
Yeah, my stomping ground. So they moved it to the States. So some people had an issue with the fact that they moved it to Monterey in California. But I do think it was a really smart move on their part just to increase the audience of the show.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think as well when we talk about adaptations, but when we talk about television and film in general, people really focus in on the plot of a story and the plot is the most integral thing. And I actually don't think that is quite the case. This is a perfect example of that. This is just a couple of women who happen to be in the same place. Their kids go to the same school. They're all part of the same sort of community group. That actually is kind of irrelevant. What's important in this story in particular is how interesting and complex each of these individual characters are. The casting for Big Little Lies is what I think makes it so spectacular of an adaptation that's been pulled off really well. Like, you've got Nicole Kidman in there. Like you said, Reese Witherspoon is in there. Alexander Skarsgård is in there. You've got a little bit of everything from everyone. Lots of like little bits of star quality coming through. I think Meryl Streep pops up in the second season too. And I think that is why this particular adaptation is so successful.
And one more thing about the setting is the reason why she chose the Northern Beaches was because in sort of the really far Northern Beaches, it's a real mix of tax brackets. So you've got the ultra, ultra wealthy and then people who have kind of been there for a long time. And Monterey kind of reflects that too. And we see that with like Shailene Woodley's character, Jane. You know, she's kind of in a lower tax bracket, but they're still all going to the same school. So there's that kind of class difference. So it didn't really matter that it wasn't in Sydney. It still reflected that same thing. I just was so obsessed with this series. Like, I just feel like, and the soundtrack, I would never ever skip that opening sequence.
Yeah, fair. Now, can I tell you my controversial take on this television series?
Sure.
Okay, there are 2 seasons. There's a third one apparently coming somewhere in the future, although it feels like it's been 100 years between drinks at this point. I am of the firm belief, and this is a hill that I will die on, most television shows, particularly of this limited series nature, should really only have 1 season. Big Little Lies, we could have stopped after season 1.
I agree.
Okay, good.
I do. With Big Little Lies, I definitely agree. In the second season, we kind of explore a little bit more about Bonnie, played by Zoe Kravitz. We explore a little bit more about her sort of backstory, whereas in the original book, that is all sort of covered after the killing. And I think that the series could have done that a little bit more effectively, and then we could have just stopped. But you know what it's like when people are fans of something, they just want more and more and more.
Yeah, I understand that you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you, but I still hold firm this one should have ended after season 1.
Again, if you haven't read Leanne's work, she's got a number of other ones. 9 Perfect Strangers, also turned into a series. She's got The Husband's Secret, which is one of my favorites. What Alice Forgot. Like, the way she writes is just so built for screen. And I think that's what makes this particular adaptation so successful. Okay, so that was my first one, Taylor. Can you give me the one on top of your list?
Okay, I submit to you what I like to call the perfect plain film. It is 2018's Crazy Rich Asians. Ksenia, I'm assuming you've seen this film.
I have seen this film, but controversially have not read the book.
Okay, allow me to explain. Crazy Rich Asians is the name of the film. It's also the name of the first book in a trilogy from Kevin Kwan. He's a Chinese-American author. And when you hear what the plot, or you know what the plot of the film or the book is, it's kind of like, I wonder what his background is to be able to write to this very specific class of people so well. I've not yet looked into it because lazy, but I assume he's got some authority and he kind of seeps that into some of the writing. So Crazy Rich Asians, book 1 of 3. There are 2 others, China Rich Girlfriend and Rich People Problems. I would love to see those 2 adapted into film. Again, like I said, plot not always the most important thing, although I think in this particular case, the story is so good and told in a context that I've maybe not really explored much before, like that Singapore upper echelon, really rich lifestyle of the rich and famous kind of thing is not something that I've seen in that kind of setting previously. I don't know about you. Are you up to date with your Southeast Asian film watching?
No, I think the reason this film was so successful is so often in Hollywood, people were like, oh, no one's going to watch that because it's an all Asian cast. And it was such a FU to Hollywood of, let's make a blockbuster with people who other people can relate to. Like, you know, there was just such this thing of, oh, no one's going to watch that. And with a primarily Asian cast, and it absolutely blew people away, rightly so. It's hilarious. It's done so beautifully and just so many great moments throughout.
You're right. I mean, this was an all Asian American cast. I think the film had like a $30 million budget and then it ended up grossing like $294 at the box office. Like, it was far beyond what anybody expected this little film to do. People like Constance Wu and Henry Golding in there, Michelle Yeoh, Awkwafina as well. Like, the cast is stellar. You cannot underestimate that for sure. Now, while we don't yet know if a sequel to Crazy Rich Asians is totally confirmed yet, what we do know is there is a TV series in the works. Did you know this?
I didn't know this. I saw that. I was like confused. Is it on the first book as well?
Yeah, so back in April this year, there was confirmation that a TV series is in development. I think the beautiful thing about a book, right, is that you get all of this time and these chapters and pages to like really delve into a story and paint a world. TV, you again have the luxury of like, I don't know, 12, 22 episodes, as many as you want, really. So the fact that this is being potentially transplanted onto television makes me really excited because that first book is great, the film is great, but seeing it in a TV model would also be very exciting.
I love that you brought that up because I think that a lot of the times when it doesn't work, a book to movie adaptation, is because you've only got 2 hours to explore this immense amount of content and so many things have to get dropped or missed. Like little tiny character details that are so important have to be let go from the story. But the beauty of a series, and particularly a limited series, is that you can have your 10 hours to create almost a 10-hour film.
100%. I mean, for fans of the Crazy Rich Asians book, you'll know that Kitty Pong is really just a side character in Crazy Rich Asians, the film. But in book 2, China Rich Girlfriend, she has this incredible story. In fact, it takes up like a large majority of that book. I would love to see that explored in a TV series. So fingers crossed, Crazy Rich Asians, the TV series, and also fingers crossed for Crazy Rich Asians 2, the film. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, I'm going to read the book now.
Yes, Ksenia, I will lend you my copy. Make sure you read it. Moving on, what is your next pick?
Okay, this book is so dear to me. I've read it probably 3 or 4 times. It is beautifully written and it was just recently made into a movie, and it is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Have you read this book?
I feel like I'm going to get cancelled for saying this. I have not read this book, but I feel like your list is very Reese Witherspoon heavy today, and that says all signs point towards good recommendations.
Okay, so this book was released in 2018, basically straight to the bestseller list. It is one of the most beautifully written books I've ever read and was really lauded for its explanation of the marshland. So if you don't know, basically, so this is set in a fictional town of Barkley Cove in North Carolina, and it tells a story of a young girl called Kaya Clark, and she's basically abandoned by her family when she's little and lives in this marshland, and it's set in kind of like the 60s, 50s, 60s, so it's still underdeveloped, and it's just the most beautiful writing. The whole book feels like one big poem. And the story of this little abandoned girl, and you follow her from when she's a little girl all the way up to when she's an adult. And she grows up really isolated. It's kind of got that Jungle Book theme of like she's raised by the marsh. The marshland really is this character. Because, have you seen the movie?
Again, Ksenia, I don't want to get cancelled.
Okay.
No, but I have seen the trailer. I'm very across this. When this came out, it was massive. Like, I'm very around the lore of this book and this film.
Okay, so I don't want to spoil the ending for you, even though I did spoil the ending for Big Little Lies. But I feel like Big Little Lies has been around long enough that it's okay.
You've got to, if you haven't seen that yet, come on.
So this book and the movie, they're fairly true to each other. There is a murder involved. There's a lot about like abandonment and, you know, family and isolation. And Kaya is just such a gorgeous, gorgeous character. In the book, it's sort of mostly from the first person. In the movie, she is played by Daisy Edgar Jones, who just does the most magical representation of her. Now, this was picked up by Reese Witherspoon again. Hello, Sunshine. Honestly, I think the reason that my book to movie / TV shows adaptations is so Reese Witherspoon heavy is because I just think she knows what translates to screen. And the way that the marshland is described in the book just really lends itself to beautiful cinematography. And that is probably the most wonderful part of the movie is the cinematography. So I will shout out, I don't normally go this deep, but I will shout out Polly Morgan because she just did this incredible job of capturing kind of something that you wouldn't think would be a romantic or wonderful place. But a marshland in North Carolina, you kind of think about like our wetlands. It can sometimes be a bit like stinky and yucky and there's lots of bugs. But it is written so beautifully that you don't feel any of that. And we do get a little bit of a love triangle. So if you like a love triangle, that's in there. There's a bit of mystery involved. I'm trying to I don't want to
You're dancing around it, I can hear.
I really don't want to ruin it for you because it's so worth the read. And definitely read it before you watch it. Because what I will say about the movie is that it's a companion piece to the book. So unlike Big Little Lies, which is super true to the source material, where the Crawdads sing does skip over a couple of character development bits and inside the mind of Kaya. But if you love the book as much as I do, it's just this really nice way to, again, step back into that world and enjoy it and see these characters come to life.
I feel like you're really taken by this because you went to the effort of looking up the cinematographer's name. So I feel like if there was ever a tick of approval from somebody or a recommendation, Ksenia, that's about as big as it gets for you, hey?
It really is. And I cried in this book and I've picked it up multiple times and reread it. And it only came out in 2018. It's not been that long and I've read it multiple times. It's just, one of my all-time favorite books. Okay, so your turn now. Next one for you.
I feel like mine are all very much on the opposite end of everything you've recommended today. Very serious, very arty, very emotional. My second recommendation is something that I like to refer to as the ultimate coming of age story. At least for me, every generation has a coming of age story, and this one definitely hits home if you turned 30 this year like I did. I'm talking, of course, about Angus, Thongs and Perfect Snogging. Does this ring true for you when I say coming of age, Ksenia? Is this around that wheelhouse for you as well?
I've never been a coming of age book reader, if that makes sense. And I haven't read this one and I haven't seen the show. So here you go. This is our chance to do a little bit of a switch.
I love that. Great. You've given me some heartbreaking drama to watch. I'm going to give you fun little UK fodder. So it's a film based on the book by Louise Renninson, Confessions of Georgia Nicholson. That's a mouthful. Georgia is the main character. She's got her 3 best friends. They're in high school. They're very much finding their way, trying to figure out their identities, falling in love with boys, figuring out how you're supposed to snog correctly, and also dealing with the high school bullies. It is very typical, par for the course. This is what it is to be a girl in high school. Life is so dramatic. My parents are probably getting divorced. They're definitely not. Reading way too much into things, wanting to grow up too quickly, and all done in that real sort of 2010s era. That, for me, cannot be more informative. I was 13 years old when this film came out. It hit me right in the sweet spot. And I actually remember watching this movie with my mum for the first time. We watched it at home. It was on DVD. We rented it from the video shop. And the opening scenes, she's running out of a costume party, humiliated because everybody dressed up sexy. She didn't get the memo. She dressed up like a giant olive. And then the argument that her and her mum have when she gets home, I remember vividly, my mum and I shot eyes across the room at each other and was like, holy shit, did we script this ourselves? Because that's the argument that we had yesterday.
I love that. That's very taking me straight back to Mean Girls. Can I ask the snogging bit?
Yes.
Are they practicing on their arms? Are they practicing on Hollywood posters? Are they putting lipstick on like their arm? Like that is kind of what rings true to me at 13. It was like, no, no, no.
It's very much that. Exactly what you just did. No notes. Yeah, there's a scene of that, definitely. They go to a kissing expert at one point, which is just like the silliest thing ever. There's tests to see if your boobs are big enough. Like it's just pure teenage girlhood fun. But it's also like this really lovely moment of teaching you what friendship is at a young age. I remember being in my early years of high school, and up until that point, I don't think I'd ever actually given the concept of friendship that much thought. It was just, these are the people that are around me by circumstance. They're my neighbours. They're the girls in my netball team. Like, of course, we're friends. And it's only as you get to high school and social dynamics start to play out that you realize, oh, this is what friendship is, and this is how you maintain a friendship, and this is what's important in friendship, and this is what would be something that would be considered crossing the lines, like, you know, going after the same boy that you like, or ditching your girlfriends for a boy. Like, that kind of thing really plays out on screen here. It was the first time that I'd really seen that and absorbed it into my own world, and it was just, I just love it so much. Like, if you haven't seen it, it's probably a bit juvenile now if you're a grown woman, but I still think it's worth a watch.
Did you read the book before you watched the movie?
No, I read the book after. I didn't realize this was based on a book, and I should say the book is phenomenal. The film is also phenomenal. It's directed by Gurinder Chadha, and if you don't know that name, that is the woman who gave us Bend It Like Beckham. So she is very much in that wheelhouse.
I just rewatched that movie the other day.
Well,
I love that movie.
She followed it up with Angus, Thongs and Perfect Snogging. Cannot recommend more.
You have converted me. I might have to go and do that one. But it's interesting though, is like, did you read it first and then watch it, or watch it and then read it? It's a kind of a funny way to go into the lore of these characters. With Crazy Rich Asians, did you read it first and then watch it?
No, I definitely watched it first. I didn't know this was based on a book series until a very long time after the fact. And then once I had read the first book, I was totally hooked. I read the entire series in like the space of a month.
Okay, because I did that with like Twilight. You know, I watched the movies and then I read the books. And like Hunger Games as well, like watched the movies, then read the books. But the other ones have always been book first and then movies/TV series.
Ksenia, there's one book on this list that you and I have both jotted down, so I'm keen to hear your thoughts. We're talking about The Great Gatsby, specifically the 2013 version starring one Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, tell me, what's your experience with this book and then with the film?
Okay, so the book is, like many of us read in high school. It is kind of, you know, the classic Scott Fitzgerald novel. It is kind of, you have to read this at English in high school. So that was kind of my experience with it. But when it got the Baz Luhrmann treatment, that's when I loved it, because I am a Baz Luhrmann obsessive.
Oh, no. This is where we are going to split paths. Maybe it is controversially, cannot stand, and I mean cannot stand Baz Luhrmann films. This is the exception, The Great Gatsby.
Oh my God, the Red Curtain trilogy. Well, you didn't like Moulin Rouge?
Nah, got no time for it. Sorry. Australia, don't want to sit through it. No.
I can't. Strictly
I can't.
Like this, like his style of filmmaking is just so special.
No, it's over the top.
Oh, I love it. It's like theatrical and music. We have very different tastes, Taylor.
We have but I'm glad that we can agree on The Great Gatsby, and this is why I think Baz Luhrmann was the right person to do this adaptation, right? So The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, it's written in 1925. It's written in the peak of what is the Great Depression. It is the most FU to the lower class out there. It is showing the exuberance. It's showing somebody like Nick Carraway, played by Tobey Maguire, who's wonderful in this, trying to break his way and edge his way into this upper echelon of society. And there's always going to be something that keeps him back. It's written at that peak moment when people were experiencing it. And for it to be such an over-the-top affair, Baz Luhrmann is clearly the only person who could have made this happen. Yes, there are a couple of other remakes of The Great Gatsby, but speaking specifically about this one, of course this man is going to make this film. He's so OTT. It was the perfect fit.
Yeah, and the way that they did all of the, the driving from Long Island to New York, the party scenes was just so classic Baz Luhrmann. And what we got from that movie was the very classic meme of Leonardo DiCaprio winking with a glass.
Yeah, holding up his bottle. I'm holding up my bottle. It's not a champagne coupe, but anyway.
I love that we got the extravagance of the 1920s and then intercut with kind of the more gritty side of it as well.
Do you know what's so funny is when F. Scott Fitzgerald died in the 1940s, I think he died in 1940, he died with this sense of like failure, that his work never cut through, that he was just this epic loser. And to think that 90-odd years later this film came out is just such a shame. Like it's such that classic thing of like people do these incredible things and don't even necessarily realize how much of an impact they've had. And I think it's just, like I said, like it's just really sad that F. Scott Fitzgerald died thinking like nothing, his work amounted to nothing. And it became this big OTT film that is so beloved. I mean, you and I, it's the one thing we agree on about Baz Luhrmann apparently, which is great. But I would also recommend seeing the other version of this, like the Robert Redford, Mia Farrow. I think that came out in the 40s. That was a great rendition as well.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Taylor, now what we're going to do is go into some of the books that we really want to see made into movies or TV series.
What is one for you that you're anticipating?
Okay. Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine.
That's a mouthful.
Have you read it?
No.
Oh my God. It's again, one of my absolute favorite books, written by Gail Honeyman. It is so quirky, spoken from the perspective of Eleanor. She's neurodivergent. The way that Gail writes her perspective is so funny and clever. So again, Hello Sunshine have picked this up. It's in pre-production. It hasn't been made yet.
Okay.
But I am desperate for it to go onto screen because I would love to see it play out.
Ksenia, is there like a Reese Witherspoon sponsorship you need to declare today?
Do you know what? I actually didn't realize how entwined they were until I started writing my list. For some reason, maybe Reese and I just have the same taste in books.
Maybe you do. Hey, one that is also in production, and I don't want to linger on this for too long because there is something else that I want to get to, but I'm Glad My Mum Died is Jeanette McCurdy's memoir. I can see you're jumping up and down. You're excited about this too.
I'm trying not to talk over you, but I'm literally fist pumping.
Yeah, I am usually exclusively a memoir lady. When I read this memoir, I was completely obsessed. I think Jeanette McCurdy's life is equal parts fascinating and horrific. If you don't know who she is, she was a child star, Nickelodeon, iCarly. You can look it all up on the internet. And as the memoir suggests, she's glad her mum died. She lived a pretty tumultuous life and relationship with her mum as a child star growing up. It's in development right now for Apple TV+. The show is inspired by her memoir. She's going to serve as an executive producer and a showrunner. Jennifer Aniston has been cast to play the mother figure, so I cannot wait for that to come out. I'm going to need to borrow someone's Apple TV login to watch it. But you and I both equally excited for this by the sound of it.
Very much. And if you don't really feel like reading, this is a great one to do as an audiobook.
Yes.
Because Jeanette McCurdy actually reads it, so it's just even more personal.
100% agree with that. The one that I would desperately love to see on screen, you know how sometimes when you're reading a book and you can see what that book is going to look like, you can visualize how that would play out on TV or film? This is one for me. It's called How to Solve Your Own Murder. It's from Kristen Perrin. And it is book one in a series that she's been working on called The Castle Knoll Files. The reason, as soon as I started reading this, that I could immediately see how it would play out on screen is the book is written in two different time periods. So the protagonist, Annie Adams, is a young woman from London. She has an estranged aunt, Great Aunt Frances. And once Aunt Frances dies in the first book, there's a massive fortune to be had. Great Aunt Frances has no other kids. She's got no other relatives. Everything stands to be inherited by Annie if she can solve her murder. Great Aunt Frances is murdered, by the way. So basically, this book cuts between two time periods. The 60s, when Great Aunt Frances gets her fortune told, fortune teller she's going to die, she's going to be murdered. And she basically lives her life setting up what is to be like the longest ever murder mystery case of all time. And then Annie blows in modern day. She works through Aunt Frances's old files, eventually figuring out who murdered her if she does. I don't want to give it too much away, but there are like 4 books in this series, so you can probably figure it out from that. It cuts between these two time periods, like I said. It's set in this beautiful small country town in England. She lives in this big manor at the top of a hill. The local townspeople aren't necessarily sure of her. They kind of thought Great Aunt Frances was a bit of a batty old lady. And then Annie comes to town and everything changes.
Okay, so those are some of the ones that we really want to see. If you guys have any others, please send us a DM. We would love to know.